forget about what software you should use, forget about actually where you should start your thesis, forget all of that. I'm on about 3 hacks to help you write this. Let's get into it. Did I just throw my thesis for the video? Did I? So 3 hacks you can see on the screen right now. We're going to be talking about what they are, how they were very effective for me, and how you can utilize them in your workflow to get the most out of your writing when you do it. So, writing hack number 1. First one is bullet point expansion. Now, I use this a lot, even with my content, but I used to use it extensively when I was writing my thesis because I realized that writing flow was a big important in gaining momentum, getting the swing, and not trying to force it too much. And I realized that writing block was a big, problem. So I realized to try and prevent that from occurring, let me just put bullet points whenever they come to mind. Just have writing document ready and open on my desktop whenever I'm there. So in between the experiments, I got something useful. I just wrote a bullet point. It's a lot quicker to write a bullet point than it is to write an actual paragraph. So then I realized, let me just expand these bullet points later on. And those bullet points became sentences, those sentences became paragraphs, those paragraphs became chapters, those chapters became thesis. So without realizing, I actually did a lot of the preparation for writing, a lot of the hard graft, a lot earlier on. So when it came to this dedicating writing phase that many of us have in our PhD, I realized that I just need to now expand these bullet points. And the reason why this hack is so useful is because sometimes we sit there and we ask too much of ourselves. We put too much pressure to write. I need to sit here, let me write to write the first chapter. And there's nothing on the screen, and then it makes it so hard for us to try to trigger that flow. But if there's a bullet point to try and get the ball rolling, different story. You'll find it a lot easier to start because you've got some cue points there already on screen. You've got like a skeleton of a story is what I like to call it. I spent, believe it or not, it's related to this point, so I'll talk about it. I spent weeks making the navigation page for my thesis. So when you go in Microsoft Word, you'll have all the headings, subheadings. I spent ages doing that because that formed the structure of my thesis. Yes, it would change, but those were like the first bullet points. And those are bullet point headings, then I did bullet points within the headings, and I did bullet points within the subheadings. And then, as we mentioned earlier, I just expanded those. So planting these seeds is what I'm trying to get at. It makes life a lot easier throughout your PhD. Get it done early, get these bullet points in, and then when it comes to the writing phase, you can go full steam ahead without worrying about writer's block because you've got cue points everywhere. Keep that in mind. Number 2 is a little bit controversial, but it's really important. I used to take a lot of mini breaks, 20 minutes, half an hour sometimes, because it wasn't about the quantity of hours, it was the quality of the work that I did in those hours. So I might have wrote for maybe 3 hours in a day maximum, but I actually wrote tons. Because I didn't actually put too much focus on each part. I didn't put pressure on myself, didn't make myself more stressed. Because away from experiments, writing is a very creative process. So I feel that it's a lot more delicate in terms of your mind and how you go about it. And I realized that if you put too much pressure, it doesn't flow. It doesn't come out naturally. You don't get into that mode. But many historical writers used to spend so much time getting into that flow state. And then the whole book wrote in like 2 days. So taking these mini breaks really helped me to get into that flow and enjoy the process a bit more. I didn't take too many deadlines. And without realizing, even though technically I only spent a couple of hours a day and sometimes I didn't do work that day, I actually wrote my thesis a lot quicker because it was the quality of the work that I did, not the hours that I technically spent. So, playing games, going for a walk, grabbing coffee, even though I didn't drink coffee in my PhD. Can you believe that? I didn't drink coffee in my PhD. But whatever break you want to take it. Because when you come back, you're more at ease, you're more peaceful to do the writing. So if your supervisor says don't do it, just say, look, Dr. Aamir said on YouTube, he said that I should take mini breaks. Take it. I'm telling you, it works. Now the third one, especially, is not to do with writing, it's to do with mind maps and brainstorms. I used to do a lot of this, not just to have a break away from typing, but I realized that these are really good to actually add into the thesis itself. So when you're designing part and you need a diagram, sometimes the mind map can be morphed into a diagram that's actually really good to break the text in your thesis. So sometimes you can spend a whole day just looking at certain diagrams that go in this particular chapter, and that isn't considered writing, but it's really important for your thesis, so it's considered really useful, really important. So I used to make sure that I factored in time for the drawing aspects, the diagrams, figures, the illustrations that I might. If you go look at my thesis, you can find online link in the video description, especially in my introduction. There were so many different figures that I actually drew on my iPad, Adobe Draw back in the day, believe it or not. There's so many new ones you can use now. What I'm trying to make is that it doesn't always have to be writing Monday to Sunday. There can be days and hours where you dedicate towards the other part of the thesis, which is as important as the text as well. Because you have to remember, your examiner is going to read this. They don't want to have 40,000 texts. They want something nice to look at. Like when you read a book, let me pick out a book. Just realised I said, let me go find a book. Why not actually show you my thesis? It's kind of the best book I got in my opinion in terms of my work. So here's one I actually drew on Adobe Draw. So you see, I've had it on screen. There you go. That's tumor vasculature. I just drew on Adobe Draw. Now if we go a bit further down, this is just a diagram of a receptor pathway. Just drew that. And these actually help you because they break up the text. So when your examiner is actually reading your thesis, they're going to be looking at, that's quite nice. And it flows with the story. So keep that in mind when you're writing your thesis, that a good hack is not to write, it's to do. So I hope you found that video super useful. Hope you found those hacks helpful. Do let me know in the comment section down below which one you like most and which one you'll try out. If you did actually find that video useful, I've got another one here where it talks about the 10 most valuable lessons I learned by being in academia for over 10 years. And these are all really in-depth lessons that I still use to this day that are to do with writing, research, planning, mindset. So check that video out over here. And in the meantime, I shall see you in the next one.